Welcome back, my lovely YouTube family. How are you doing today? Gaming for XP. And today we are going to do something a wee bit different. Square Enix is just about to launch their brand new game for the year in April, Outriders, and we have been playing around with the demo a little bit. So today I'm going to give you an honest opinion on how at least I see the game based on the demo version that they have produced. Excited? Yes? So, Outriders is an up-and-coming cooperative role-playing third-person video game from People Can Fly and published by Square Enix. And it's available on all platforms, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox One, Series XS and Stadia, as well as Microsoft in Windows. Outriders is a third-person shooter mixed with elements of role-playing games. In the beginning of the game, players create their custom characters and choose from 4 classes. Each of them has a unique ability that the player can utilize. And we'll walk through each of the classes in a wee while. So, players can use different weapons such as shotguns and assault rifles to defeat enemies, and firearms can be customized with weapon mods. You can hide behind cover or health regeneration, rada. Humanity, so the premise of the whole game, according to the wiki here, are humanity's efforts to colonize an alien planet called Enoch. When Astrea's expedition team encountered a massive energy storm known as an anomaly. During the search for the mysterious signal, which may indicate hope for humanity's future, the storm grants both Enoch's inhabitants and colonists superpowers. There you go. So, for the first time ever in Gaming for XP history, this is one of these games that I have kind of got early, played through the demo quite a bit, and I can't quite make my mind up whether I like it or I don't like it. So we're going to dive into my kind of feelings on the games. I'll outline what I've found and give you my opinion, and understand that everybody has, are looking for different things when they're choosing games, but hopefully this gives you a rounded view. If you're even a little bit more curious, then you can go and download the demo and play it for a little bit and just see how you feel about it. And yeah, let's get into it. I've got to say, when you first boot this game up and you can kind of navigate your way through all the different cutscenes and whatnot, and then you actually get into the game, you kind of sit back and my initial reaction was, I'm playing an Xbox 360 or a PS3 game just by the way it looks initially, but don't be fooled by that. The storyline for this game is very, very solid. The kind of way it kind of sucks you in, and the immersion into the story happens very, very quickly, and the characters that you're going to meet during the storyline are very, very likable, very believable. And the whole premise of the story all kind of works in with the whole kind of way the game works. But certainly when I first looked at this, I was like, I guess I've been spoiled with open world games and beautiful graphics. And not to say that there aren't beautiful graphics in this game, but it just looks and feels like it's made for consoles a couple of generations ago. Now, it may run completely different when you get it on maybe a PlayStation 5 or a Xbox Series X. Hopefully once I get one of those, I will have a look and see. But at this point on an Xbox One, it just feels like you're stepping back a few generations graphically. The landscape in the start of the game is very, very nice. Really, really nice actually. It's all beautifully drawn, and you kind of meander through this lovely countryside at the start of the game. But then once the storyline moves forward a little, you tend to get into these very uninspiring, bland, and very kind of linear paths within the game, which is a bit of a disappointment. I think they could have done a lot more in the way that they came up with some of these areas. I played through probably. I'm limited with the demo to which area I play in, so that may, I guess, change as you go through the game. But the initial impressions is that they were very, very kind of basic landscapes and part of the world that I was playing around in and fighting enemies in, and they weren't. Given the storyline, it kind of fits, but I think they could have done a lot more graphically with the landscape of this game, at least from what I've experienced. The other thing that I would say is the way that you come across enemies. You tend to get this group of enemies that you have to contest with, and then there's these big open spaces in between the next group of enemies, and it just I don't know why they've done that, but it just doesn't contribute to the flow of the game too much. Obviously, when you've had an intense battle with a number of enemies, you want to have a little bit of a rest, a little bit of a breather, but I think there's just too many gaps sometimes in between the fights, and maybe they could, rather than have a whole huge group of enemies, maybe they should kind of spread those enemies out and just have them over a longer period of the landscape. I've got to say, I'm going to be reasonably critical of this game because it felt like I was playing a beta, not a demo of the game, in a lot of respects, and I will kind of work through each of those elements as we go through this video. The weapons are good. They play smoothly. It's very, very much like playing the Division game, if you've ever played that, as far as the way the third-party shooting feels and the way that the guns go. You do get to scope in if you get a sniper rifle. So you do get to scope in your weapons. Some of the weapons, the rest are all kind of third-party. The shooting mechanics are good. I have no argument about the guns. The shooting mechanics, the way that all works, and I think if you've played things like Destiny and the Division, you'll probably like this game a lot as far as the weapon types that you get, and there is a large selection of different types of guns. Obviously it's gear based, so very similar to Destiny and the Division, so you're constantly going to be picking up new gear and new weapons. If you find guns or weapons that you like or gear that you like, you will be able to upgrade those. Although in the demo there wasn't really a clear indication of how to do that. Although I haven't played fully through the demo at this point of making the video, but I think I've played enough to see and make an opinion on how things work. But together with the weapons that you're given a number of abilities. So they call them skills, I would call them abilities, but he said, she said, tomato, tomato. And all those skills are there on your left and right bumpers, or L2, R2 for PlayStation users. And they're all pretty straightforward. Unlocked 3 different skills during the playthrough, and I will cover that when I go through the AI a little bit later. But they complement your guns and certainly get you a lot of trouble, especially with some of the captains and commander enemies in boss fights. And the boss fights seem to be reasonably well balanced in this game. At least the small section that I got into, I didn't mind them. They were pretty good. They were well balanced, about the right level. One thing that I did have a problem with though is I came across kind of my first high level enemy to take care of, and for some reason the world tier or the difficult level had auto selected and gone up a level, and I was unaware of that, and it made killing this boss almost impossible. As soon as I reset the world tier level back to normal, then I was able to get forward from that point, kill him fairly easily and move on with the game. So world tier levels are a thing that I'll explain in a little bit. I think they're quite a good idea, but just something to keep an eye on as far as when you're playing the game. If that happens to you and you're having trouble fighting a boss, then that's maybe something that you can look at. Swapping to weapons is way too hard. You know, you'll come across a group of enemies where you're, you know, maybe using the sniper rifle and scoping them, and so you're at range and you're sitting back and killing them, and then you get through that group of enemies and suddenly you get these guys charging at you, and you need to swap to a shotgun, and getting into the inventory menu, choosing that gun and getting back at is painful. And you know, I died a number of times doing that, and it just, there has to be a better way of swapping between weapons, or having like a Borderlands setup where you've got 3 or 4 weapons at your disposal. Now, you will see that you do have 3 weapons at any one time, but one of those weapons is a sidearm, is effectively just a pistol. I'd like to see, as I said, more of a Borderlands type of thing where you can quickly use your D-pad to swap between weapons, and you can have maybe 4 different weapon types or 3 different weapon types. At this point, the sidearm is locked in and you can't change that out for any other weapon. So effectively, you've only got 2 other weapons. And depending on the enemies you're fighting, the balance of those weapons has to be changed. It's just as simple as that. I needed to change the shotgun from a sniper, and it was just a painful process. So that's something that really does need work, in my opinion. So there are a couple of very small things that I'd like to talk about. As far as, you know, weapon swapping is difficult enough, but if you have a look at the graphics here, now I've moved forward a fair bit in the storyline, but a lot of these weapons look the same, and it's sometimes when you will need to quickly find the weapon that you're looking for, moving to the right weapon can be a nightmare, because they all look the same. See, this thing is a shotgun. This is an AR. So the ARs and the shotguns look very similar to each other, and yeah, it's just, especially in the start of the game, it's that you need to have some kind of distinguisher to tell you what's what class is what. It's not clear enough, even with these guns that I've kind of improved. You can see the background to this one compared to that one is so subtle, and I think they need to do a better job of making that a little bit more obvious, so that you can very quickly visually pick a gun, move it to a slot. So to move a gun to a slot, you have to select the slot, then select the gun you're going to move. And it's, yeah, this needs to be a lot snappier, in my opinion. It really does. It's just, it needs some work. And moving on, and it's another thing that I think, it's a small detail, but it's something that I'm constantly having a problem with, is the way that they have the button selection. The button selection for the inventory and exiting game seem to be the wrong way around, and I'm constantly pressing this button to get into into the inventory, and I get this screen. And so that is just a little thing, and I'll show you how slow the inventory screen is on Xbox One. That took way too long to get it into the inventory. The other thing we want to cover is world tiers, and I think this is a really nice innovation to the game. I really do like this. So you see, you go to the game menu, you go to world tiers, and you have various tiers that you're going to be able to work through, and 15 tiers at this point. And you can see as you go up through the tiers, you're going to get rewarded with things, but the game is going to get harder and harder. So level 4 enemy, level 7 enemy, etc. I really do like this, but this setting here, not such a big fan of. Auto set highest available tier. So I guess somewhere in the settings you can switch that off, but I wasn't aware of that. And like I said, it caught me at where I got to this point where I had a boss battle or a fairly high level enemy. The tier had shifted from 2 to 3, and I just couldn't get past the guy, and I got frustrated, and I was like, that's why I ended up switching the console off and coming back the next day and then it twigged that this is what had happened. So you can see it's a different way of playing the game. I do like it, but I think yeah, I'd like to be in control of that more. So just be aware of that, that you might have to tweak the settings there. I like there are a number of little innovations I do really like. I like the quest marker, the little line that you can just press and it will show you exactly where you should go. I do like these flags that you have to get to, which are the save points. I'm not such a fan that there is no manual saving system in this game, but yeah, I can live with that. I've got to say, the class selection is nice, and yeah, it gives you a little bit of a hint of what each class does. Probably could be expanded a little bit to explain the classes a little bit more in a little bit more detail, so you can make a better kind of idea of what you want to select. But however, the demo does allow you to work through each of those classes and play each of those classes through the demo, which is really nice. I like that, and they do explain that when you come to the class part of the game, that you can play through on each different class, so that you can have a wee feel to what is going to suit you in the main game. I think a couple of things that I would say that they really need to work on is the chests. The ammo crates and the loot chests look virtually the same from a distance. They glow blue, and yeah, I just think just a change in colour, have them glow a different colour would be enough to understand that that is a loot crate and that is an ammo crate. But yeah, they look way too similar. The transitions, the number of transitions that are in the game that really don't need to be there at critical times, and it's just very frustrating and really does break up your immersion. I think that really does. That's one thing I just do not like in any kind of game, where you're taking it for a transition that is just put in there and just doesn't seem to be any reason why. And some of the transitions are just way too long between the storyline. But apart from that, what is my overall feelings on the game? Well, I think they've given it a good shake. They've taken a lot of elements from various games. You can see all kinds of games influences in this Outriders game. I've got to say, I think they've fallen short a little bit on this. I don't think the execution is nearly good enough. And, you know, if you've seen my Gaming's Rant video about companies that are putting games out that are 80% done, I think this game has that feel. Like I said earlier, it felt like I was playing a beta, not a game that was just about to be launched in April. And, the 1st April, I think it's at, or 2nd April or something. It doesn't feel as polished as it should be. There's, I've highlighted a whole lot of areas where I think they could really improve the game. But Will I buy it? I probably will. I probably will buy this at some point. I'm certainly not going to pay full price for it, and I'm certainly going to keep an eye on whether they're going to improve it and how once it's launched, what the kind of feedback is on it. But I think it needs a lot of work at this point. But the storyline's solid. The weapons and the way the weapons work are solid. But there's a lot of things that need to be improved. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed this little look-see at Outriders. I tried to be honest with these kind of reviews, if you like, and give you a rounded look at what it is. You can always download the demo for yourself and have a look and make your own opinion up. I'm really not sure about this game unless it gets some fairly significant improvements, whether it's going to be successful or not, but we will see. Thanks for joining us on the channel. If you want to keep up with everything on Gaming4XP, make sure that you're subscribed and the notification bell is switched on. You can always follow me over on Twitter if you like. We now have a community tab on the YouTube channel, so you can comment there if you like. The like rating's always appreciated. It really does help the channel, and I love reading all your comments. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on Gaming4XP. See ya!